And Trudi, on behalf of the South African Transactional Analysis Association, we welcome you to our June webinar and welcome all the participants. It's lovely to see you all again. To introduce Trudi, she's a teaching and supervising transactional analyst working in the educational field. Trudi works internationally to facilitate radical approaches to learning and community development. She contributes to training programs in several countries, including South Africa. And in 2011, she received the Muriel James Living Principles Award from the ITAA. And in 2017, the European Association of Transactional Analysis Gold Medal in recognition of her work in developing the educational field of transactional analysis. Welcome, Trudi.
Thank you. Okay, so shall I take it from there?
Please do.
And welcome everybody. I'm always amazed when we do this. It just seems miraculous to me to be able to meet with people from all over the world in this way. And it's such a privilege to be able to do so. So it's great to see you all this morning, and thank you for coming. I just realized as I said that it's probably not morning for some of you, but it's great to see you all today anyway. And thanks, Andrew, for what you said about the technical things, to remember to mute our microphones when we're not actually speaking. So I hope we'll all be doing quite a lot of speaking, so we might need to be quite on the ball about that, clicking on and off. So what I would like to do to start with, I think, is to get to know a little bit about each of you, because what I want us to do this morning is to work together on some ideas that I've brought. And then if we can start off by knowing why it's important to you to be here. So if you could just say a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you are, and how you work with TA. I would find that really valuable to be developing the ideas that we're going to be working on. So, who'd like to begin?
I can go. My name is Garima. I am in Maputo, in Mozambique. And I did the TA 101 with Karen Pratt about a year or so ago, and very fascinating, stuff. And I use it more with my clients. I'm a life coach, and I use it with my clients in communication and helping them communicate better.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, that's really nice to know, because we're going to be talking about stories, and really stories is what you work with as a life coach.
Yeah, and I love the stories, and that's what attracted me to your webinars, the stories part.
Nice. So. Okay, thank you, Garima.
Yes.
Garima with the accent on the I. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm happy to go next. I'm Freeney, and I'm also a coach, and I facilitate workshops for groups in mainly in corporate South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm very new to the work and only did sort of a very basic introduction, and now I'm looking to work with Karen Pratt. I'm just unfortunately away every time she has a course, so I have to be quite religious about attending these things so that I can really upskill myself. But I'm finding that I work predominantly with it in terms of aligning it with the drama triangle and trying to just create personal awareness for leaders and managers in the workplace. So I've only touched on ego states and just watched lots of YouTube videos to get some insight into the other stuff. So I may not contribute a lot because I'm still learning the terminology and the action. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. And on the other hand, I think you might contribute quite a bit, because moving off the drama triangle is one of the main things that we're going to be talking about. So you probably will have some examples from your work to think about.
Lovely, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Franny. Who's next?
I'll go next. My name's Laya, and I'm in Cape Town, South Africa. And I use TA in my work as a coach and consultant, mostly in organizations. And yeah, noticing that these organizations and people's roles in them can never actually be separated from people's personal lives. So there's a lot of interweaving happening.
Yeah, oh, that's good. Yeah, and again, you'll probably be able to find lots of examples from the work that you do that you can think about in terms of the triangles we're going to be talking about this morning. It is mostly triangles, but it's not all triangles. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Somebody else?
I'm happy to go. So I also am in Cape Town, and I also am operating particularly as an executive coach. That's how I call it, but what it means basically working in sort of leadership and management development arena with individuals and with teams, and with some consulting that goes with that. I also have done TA years ago with Karen, but I've also met it before when I majored in psychology 500 years ago.
Not as long as me.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Maybe slightly a year after you. Anyway, what I do with TA, I find it is extremely useful as a model that people can relate to so easily, and in a non-threatening way, and in a way that they just feel true. So it's quite easy to relate to, both to the ego states. Of course, I don't use the words ego states when I, show them. I just show them how it presents itself. And absolutely, the drama triangle is an absolute winner, if I can use that word, in terms of useful, particularly in conflict situations, which of course are every day in our work.
Yeah, thank you. Really nice to see you again. Okay, somebody else?
Me. Oh,
Anand.
I'm Anand. Yes, I'm from Bangalore, India. And in the last 3 years, I have discovered TA. So I'm going back and looking at all my lessons and workshops that I used to do, and reframe them using TA model. And I'm also done coaching with Karen, and currently I'm with Karen doing my second year in educational TA. So I want to go back and see how I can morph my lessons so that it's more coming from an integrated adult and co-creating.
Brilliant. Gosh, how exciting.
Yes.
Sounds exciting to be doing that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
Hi. I will. Oh, Kusham, if you want to go ahead of me, I'm quite happy for that.
Please go ahead. It's okay.
Sure. Thanks. So I'm Andrew. I'm based in just outside Pretoria in South Africa. I'm a coach. I, for a long time, would call myself a life coach, but I realized that more and more of my work is in some corporate spaces, but still the essence of it is life coaching. It's that, like Lyra said, that balancing of the different hats that people wear and bringing in the different roles there. I find TA to be my front of mind collection of filters when I'm working with people, to think through the way I listen to people. Often it sort of informs the way how I might ask a question, and then at times when it's appropriate, I will offer to share a model to help some awareness. But my experience is similar to how Hel described it, that it's non-threatening and a really sort of solid and simple framework to hang people's thinking on.
Thank you. And that causes me to think again about what we're going to be doing, and that solid framework, and hopefully we're going to be giving some more options for that. Yeah, thank you. Interesting. Yeah. Kusham.
Hi everyone. I guess this is my first webinar I'm attending, though I did want to attend the previous one. I just couldn't make it for the reasons of time. So just having lunch and I really had to rush. That's why I said I'm just walking up. I'll join you guys. So I'm from Coimbatore, India, and I've been doing TA since 2012, and my trainer is Sashi Chandran. And in addition to that, I'm doing coaching at the moment with Karen, the coaching course from Coaching Development. So basically, I work as a behavioral consultant in my place, and I'm at the moment at work. So TA, one of the reasons that I am into this field, I guess, is TA because it talks about communication, it talks about interpersonal skills, and most importantly, knowing yourself is very important before you start getting into working with people and talking about soft skills and how they can tune themselves and fine tune them. So that's one reason why I'm still hooked to TA. I'm doing my last bit in terms of my training in TA, and so looking forward to attending a lot of webinars. And the moment I saw Trudi Newton, I said, I have to attend this, come what may. So therefore, here I am.
Here you are. Lovely to have you here. It's brilliant. Yeah. And I've known Sashi a long time, but and I saw her last year in Berlin, but we don't have a lot of contact, but we know each other as educational colleagues. Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Lovely.
So Alex, just since it's in recording, and you said you would put it in YouTube. Is it okay if I can go offline? Just the video. I am still listening and watching all of you. Is that okay? Because I'm at work. Fine.
Yes, that's fine. Thanks, Kaushal.
Sure.
Sharon?
Yes, hi. I'm Sharon. I've been involved with TA for a very long time. I do a lot of TA therapy. I do TA training at all levels. I do it face-to-face and online like this. And I'm interested in any new information that I can get. And that's my reason for being here this morning. I always like to hear different perspectives from different points of view, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to share with us this morning and participating as much as I can.
Okay, thanks, Karen. So, Alex, you also need to introduce yourself, please.
I'd firstly like to say it's quite an honor to have Sharon here today, being one of the founding members of the South African TA Association, and it's lovely to see you and work with you again, Sharon. So I'm Alex, I'm based in Cape Town. I'm a personal coach and a supervisor. I'm the vice chair of the SATAA, and we've also got Lyle here, the treasurer, so it's nice to have, and Andrew, obviously. And Karen will be joining us a little bit later, hopefully. I use TA in my work as both a coach and a supervisor, probably a bit more so as a supervisor when exploring a client's supervision question using a piece of theory, and also in my own thinking to make sense of the relationship between myself and the client I'm working with, and how what's going on there might also be going on between the client and other parties in their environment. I think I was first introduced to it as part of my coach training around 10 years ago, and I found it really powerful a powerful way of understanding myself and human relationships. Really transformative in that way as well, being easy to grasp, and useful for clients in that way too, because they don't really have to know a lot of jargon to really get the essence of what's going on, in the unseen world. So I'm really passionate about it, and so glad to have you presenting for us today, Trudi.
Thank you. Thank you all. That's really, really interesting. And just before we move on, I'm sure you're all getting anxious to actually start looking at stuff, but just before we do that, I'd like us to have a brief contracting session. These kind of overall theme for today, we'll be looking at metaphors and stories and how we actually use those in TA. And I will be asking you to work in pairs or in small groups, and Alex will look after the technology for that. So I just want to check that that's all right with each of you, that you're happy to be put into small groups while we're online. That's okay.
And may I add, Trudi, that when the people are working in the breakaway rooms, in those small groups, that won't be recorded.
Okay, that's fine. Good, because that was going to be my next question. And it's also related to how you want to participate in this, because you might come across something which touches you very deeply and has a personal effect. And I would ask you to remember that this is a learning group. I mean, I don't think any of you are going to think it's a therapy group, but it's not. It's a learning group. So please participate at a level that feels okay to you. And of course, it's always useful and therapeutic to look at our responses to what we're learning. But the main focus this morning is on learning. So we will spend some time all together. We will spend some time working in pairs or maybe threes. I'm going to leave that to Alex to work out. And I might also occasionally ask you to do some individual notes on what we've been talking about. So is that all okay with everybody? Good. Okay, so let's begin. So, I want one more thing in the contract. I would really like to be able to drink my cup of tea while we're talking. Because otherwise I'm going to get a dry throat and start coughing. So I hope that, Andrew's you great. Good. I thought maybe I was the only one. Okay, thank you. So I think my husband, who's in the house and is minding the landline phone so that it doesn't ring while we're talking, will also bring me refreshing drinks at various points. So you might just see him coming in on my right side. Okay, so the theme of today, as you know from what Alex sent out to you, is looking at stories and metaphors. We're very big in metaphors in TA, although we don't always acknowledge it. We create all these models, and of course they are ways of attempting to illustrate what goes on for people and between people. So hopefully we're going to be exploring some new metaphors today. So in order to start, I want to show you something. So I'm going to show you a model, and all I want you to do is just feel your reaction to it. And everybody's got their microphones muted, so I don't get any reactions. Have you seen it before?
No, it's the other way around.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the other way around. That's right.
The other way around. Okay. Yes. So just think about that for a moment. How does it feel different looking at CAP to looking at the more familiar PAC?
It's more empowering, and seeing the child on top and the adult and parent. And to know that there is an adult there is a buffer zone where I can think and problem solve in the here and now, and I still have the support of parent from underneath.
Do you want to say a bit more about that, and just thinking about comparing the two diagrams, is there anything else you'd like to say?
All I can see is it's liberating, it is expansive, and a lot of permission to be and explore. So yeah, it's expansive. Looking at it, it's freeing. And in comparison to the other, where, when you look at the matrix, where we see the parent-child adult model is down and the arrow is going down. And it is as if somebody is putting a weight on my shoulders and pushing me down. And whereas the other one is, I see them giving shoulders. As the matrix, we see, the parent and the adult, mother and father, and the arrows going down and the lifting. And then reversing this as CAP is even more liberating, to see that I have the support of either side lifting me up. And I can go and explore that world out there.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Okay, someone else. And Alex, I can't see people because I've got the screen. Is there something I can do about that?
I'm not 100% sure.
I've got myself, Anand, Garima, and you. And a little arrow.
If you click on that arrow, you'll be able to scroll down, but you won't be able to see everybody.
I won't be able to see everybody. Okay, so I'll just look for people as they're speaking. Okay.
Yeah. While I'm unmuted, I'd like to kind of say that I was, when listening to Anand, actually felt like a wave of integration in my body because of the power of what he said. And I enjoy this version of the traditional model, because in the original one, there's almost like an inferred hierarchy that the parent is more important or has more power, more influence. And what I love about this one is it's a lot more empowering of self, which has a lot of meaning for me personally, but I think also theoretically.
Yeah, interesting. I'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah.
So when I look at it, what stands out for me is that almost the child has taken the place of a parent. So now the child is going to dictate how the parent reacts, or in some ways, it's so common in today's generation where the parents are, whatever the child wants, the parent does. And on the other hand, it could also be that if the child is coming from their natural child, then it may invoke a reaction from parents which could be more fun-loving, or it could be their nurturing parent part if they are frightened, or they're being rebellious, or they're adaptive. So it could be used, could go either way. That's how I see it.
Yeah, that's an interesting note of caution. Yeah, Thank you. Yeah, I think you're right, because the temptation nowadays is to give, well, certainly it is in the UK, to give even small children the choice of what they want to do, rather than offering them structure.
Right.
So that is an important thing to keep in mind. And at the same time, this also has the effect of maybe challenging the way that we've seen the model in the past. Yeah, someone else maybe.
Yes, I also had mixed reactions, mixed feelings when I saw this, and the first was also, oh my goodness, this is the wrong way around, and the wrong way around in terms of the child being on top, where the responsibility lies. So that was what came up for me. Children being made bigger than what they are, and being made to carry more than they should be carrying. So there was that sort of going on. And then at the same time, when I heard the responses around the liberation and the child being heard and not being kept down, that also resonates with me. So there's both.
Yeah, that is really interesting, because of course the aim of this diagram originally was that the parent was actually the support. the aim of parenting was to enable the child. But of course, we're going to read it in different ways according to our own background, aren't we? According to our own learning. Not everybody's going to read it the same way. So that's really good to have different perspectives on it. When this originated in a training group in London years and years ago, and the person who actually drew it on the board, this was a group of support workers in schools, and she drew it with a hand, an outstretched, how do I do it so you can see it on the camera, a hand supporting the CAP. So like the aim is the bringing up of children successfully, happily. And so that was her picture, that C should be at the top, because that's the aim, rather than being at the bottom, as Anna said, where the child is under pressure from the parent and adult above. And it's all about pictures. It's all picture language, isn't it? So some of what we feel when we see a new diagram is what we bring to it because of what we've previously known or previously experienced. And this is one of the things that really set me going in looking at metaphors in TA, and how, in spite of the good intention, they can sometimes be quite oppressive, like the script matrix going down and the drama triangle and so forth. So I want to stop sharing this now, and doesn't mean we forget about it, but I like to be able to see you all. I find it quite frustrating to be looking at the diagram and not looking at you.
Trudi,
yes,
sorry.
Go.
At the bottom of your screen, it says share screen.
Yeah.
And if you press that, it will divide the screen between what you're showing and all the people.
What, different to what I did before?
Well, in order to have your diagram and see everybody, you need to share the screen.
Yeah, that's what I was doing.
Oh, okay,
But
okay.
I could only see 4 people.
Okay, sorry.
I like to be able to see everybody. Sharon, while we're doing technicalities, I can only see the very top of your head.
Okay, that's because I put the phone down.
Okay. Oh, you're on your phone.
Yeah.
That's why it keeps moving around. Okay.
Sorry.
Now
Let me see if I can put it in one place.
Okay.
Okay, sorry.
That would be good. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we can see you rather than just seeing the top of your head. That's great.
Sorry. Okay.
No, that's fine. And any other thoughts before we move on?
Yeah, I found that very interesting because I think that, seeing the parent and the adult as the support from underneath, I think is very important. But at the same time, seeing the child at the top might also put too much responsibility on the child. And I'm thinking of that diagram where you have the parent, adult, and child all interlocking with each other in a circle.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know what I'm talking
about. Yes, I do. It's like a little, like 3 little balls in a triangle. Yes, yes, I do remember that. Yeah, and I think that and some of the other diagrams that people have suggested are possibly a way of people saying, are we really saying what we want to say when we look at this model? And I think that's one of the questions that I'd like us to keep in mind as we're talking. Is this actually conveying what we want it to convey? And if not, how can we work with it to make it more effective in the work we do? And that's going to be different for everybody, because you're all working in different contexts, and the needs of the people you're working with will be different. So it's good to stimulate your own thinking and sometimes create your own diagrams.
Trudi, could I say something? I'm sorry.
Okay, I think.
When I look at this model, it could be the child, adult, parent, or parent, adult, child. what we're really talking about is the ego states that we all have. So if we are, it's not necessarily talking about children or parents, it's our ego states. So, if we're coming from the child ego state, that could be maybe our natural child, or more creativity, or more being more easygoing and fun-loving, and rather than being that serious parent and the critical parent. Isn't that's what we are talking about here? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're right.
So it doesn't matter. I mean, I think it makes more sense to bringing your own creativity and being more relaxed and being in your natural state probably gets better results in whatever you're doing, rather than being so critical all the time.
Yeah. And I think you're right that what we need to do is to think about this as an internal model.
Right.
So it's not simply how do real actual parents support their actual offspring. It's also about how do we use our own parent ego state to support our child creativity and liberation, empowerment, whatever, rather than it being an oppressive force that tells us, no, you can't do that.
Right.
Whatever it is. So you're right to think of it as it's an internal process. It's not necessarily what we see happening in the social world, although it may be that as well. Somebody else.
Yes, I was going to say, I guess what came up for me instantly when I saw the model is my instant body reaction was I felt fear. And I looked at that and I just thought, gosh, what a disaster. So when the first person sort of spoke about liberation and fantastic, I really struggled to understand. I mean, I almost came online to say I'm really not following that. And I think as the conversation progressed, and coming from a reasonably Calvinistic background, my sense of the sort of child being empowered and, speaking or sort of having that much of an influence felt incredibly frightening from the perspective of, the support for the child, I guess. And then more ego states perspective, it also again felt a little bit like, gosh, how do you get things done? How am I going to be functional? And, and I suppose, and what's landed now for me is exactly what you said about being able to think of it differently. And what somebody just added, sorry, I'm forgetting everybody's names, but what you just added recently was saying the piece around the freedom and the thinking and the creativity, which like I have very little access to in many ways. So that was really beautiful. Thank you. I like went full circle almost, which I guess which is lovely about having different people contribute. So thank you.
That's right. Yeah, it's such a rich mixture when we're all prepared to share our thoughts, and this is the way that I really like to work. Okay, so I think we need to move on. I know that Alex sent, or Karen, somebody sent a request for you to think about folktales before we meet this morning. Have you done that? Some nods. Yeah, thank you. Good. Okay. What I think, I'm just looking at my notes and thinking about. Now let's hear just a couple of examples in the group, and then I'll ask you to share them in pairs, or how we're. Threes would work, wouldn't it? If I'm not involved, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, threes would work. Okay, let's do threes. But first of all, before we do that, maybe somebody has a story that you'd like to briefly tell us. No, you were nodding, so.
Yes, I don't know if I want to tell the whole story. Everyone probably knows it. What came up for me immediately was Cinderella.
Okay. And are you happy to tell us any special reason why it was what came up for you?
Well, it came up, and I also thought about, well, why did Cinderella come up suddenly? And I think it's just this person who's oppressed, who's not understood, whose worth is not seen, then suddenly miraculously being recognized from somewhere else, and outgrowing those who oppressed her, and sort of gaining freedom suddenly. I think that's what came up for me from that story. And it was actually the only fairy tale from my childhood that I remembered that was valuable in my childhood. I heard very few fairy tales, and my mom didn't tell me a lot of fairy tales because she thought I would be scared of them. So of course I was scared of them. But Cinderella was one that I was not scared of.
Right. Oh, lovely. And as you were speaking, I was thinking about the CAP model and thinking about the fairy godmother and how Cinderella had that as part of her introjected parent. So anyway, yeah, we can explore that more later, but that was what came to me as you were speaking. That's lovely. Thank you.
Trudy, I think for me also, the story came to me was Cinderella as well. And I think it's where I share some of Layo's sentiments exactly. My mom didn't tell me a lot of fairy tales, so the one that I kind of grew up with was Cinderella. And being a middle child, felt like I wasn't understood, and I felt like, I was on the sidelines, and not growing up being able to express, always had that image that, one day, I would be recognized and come out of all of this. So it resonates for me too, that way.
Yeah, thank you. Okay.
Is it time for my last one?
Yeah, okay.
Mine was Hansel and Gretel, interestingly. In that moment, I couldn't actually think of any other. In fact, and there was a moment where I thought, I don't think I know another one. Which now if someone says Cinderella, I'm like, oh my gosh, pause. But I don't actually remember being told the story of Cinderella until I watched it with my daughter, and I was like, oh, I remember that. So, so for me, again, a lot around the parent-adult child in Hansel and Gretel, and the lack of the nurturing parent. In that story, which it resonates perfectly with my childhood. So I guess that's possibly why I connected deeply with it, or instantaneously with it.
Brilliant. I'm so pleased for another reason as well. It's great to hear you talking about it, but also that's the story that I'd chosen for us to work on if nobody came up with anything. So since you have, we will use that story later on. You'll see what happens later on. Okay, so what I suggest now is that you go into groups of 3 for, let me just check the time, 5 minutes, is that enough? And just briefly, maybe you need a little bit more than 5 minutes, 7 minutes. Briefly tell your stories to each other, in summary if you can, but together in your 3s, see what cultural messages you can identify that are being carried in these stories. Is that okay as a task? So, Andrew, can you put everybody into 3 groups of 3?
I will do so. Okay. Trudi, you want me to leave you?
Leave me out.
Okay.
So 3 3s, I think that works. 5, yes it does. And 7 minutes.
Great, I'll do so.
And I'll wait for you all to come back.
Hello.
Hello.
What story did you have, Michal or Kulsha?
So the story that came up for me is the story that we all know. Well, Kulshum, I don't know about in India. I have absolutely no idea, but you can tell me. But what I think is the famous one is Little Red Riding Hood. Yeah. So, but the interesting thing is that Little Red Riding Hood, I don't remember my parents telling me that. I remember reading about it, and I remember